come here. I'll have to tell you a little story. I was not supposed to be here. Well, obviously I was, but there was no, there was no intention of me coming along here. Schaeffer had a guy who was going to come with him and be his bodyguard. And they went in and checked into the airplane, onto the plane, and checked the baggage, and found out that the flight had been, I guess, delayed for a couple of hours. We all went to dinner separately. We got a call from this guy, and he said that he was backing out. It was 2 hours before the flight was supposed to leave, which, is when we're supposed to be checking in for the flight. So we're kind of looking at each other like, what the heck? What are we supposed to do? It's 2 hours before the flight. Where are we going to find to go with you? And I just kind of look at Schaeffer and I say,
or did you jump from a bullet?
I look at him and I say, why? I'll go with you. I'll go with you. I don't have my bags checked. It's going to be a challenge with Seth, but I'll go with you. And he kind of looked at me like, okay. So we called Mona, and she started finagling with the airlines. And meanwhile, I was in the process of moving from one safe house to the next. And so all of my stuff, I was kind of spread out in two spots. I had my house, I had the safe house, and then I had the third safe house, which was about a half hour out of town. Okay, so I hop in the truck and drive to where there's some clothes, pack my bags, drive back, get to the airport just in time to get my bags checked and find out that I'm actually on the flight. We fly here and face, the whole flight we face the spiritual and physical battle coupled. We thankfully had people here in Montana, in Fairbanks, praying for us to confuse the enemy and confound him and blind him. And God answered those prayers. The TSA agents, as we were trying to get on the plane in Fairbanks, TSA agents came along and were standing in the jetway looking for Schaeffer. And he was disguised. And he heard over the radio. I didn't hear it, so I can't say that I heard. But he said that the first agent was speaking over the radio that, yeah, he's not here. He must have missed his flight. And so Schaeffer was like, oh boy. And then we walked down to the end of the jetway, and there was a second agent who was hearing over his radio that the target or whatever was 26 and had hazel eyes. So it was only through God's provision that we were able to get onto the flight from Fairbanks to Anchorage. Once we got into Anchorage, we had a 5-hour layover, which meant that they could come pick us up anytime they wanted. But it wasn't until we started boarding from Anchorage to Salt Lake City that about six TSA agents came into the boarding area and started looking for Schaeffer. Once again, we had to pray that God would blind them and confuse them. And sure enough, we were able to get onto the flight from Anchorage to Salt Lake City safely without them knowing who he was or where he was going. And arrived safely in Salt Lake City and had no problems in Salt Lake City to Missoula. So, and then when I get here, more and more and more, I get here and I'm in the backstage and a gentleman comes up to me and says, "Are you Marti Cox?" And I told him, "Yeah." He's like, I just have to tell you a story. It was 2 or 3 days ago that God was telling me to pray that, that you would come, that you would be present at some of these conferences so that the truth would come out, so that God's light would shine and they would see that these accusations and these gossips and these unsubstantiated charges would be shown to be false. And so it was kind of a reminder to me that God is working and that we need to be sensitive to when He is speaking to us, and that we can't be fearful, and we can't be hesitant when we sense sense him leading us in a certain way, we need to act on it quickly and obediently. And anyway, so all of that to show that there's this physical realm we have TSA agents, we have caseworkers, we have lawyers, we have Attorney General, all of these people coming at us, but really, truly, the battle is not against flesh and blood, it's in the spiritual realm. And God has been teaching me that and showing me that it's Satan who is the ultimate enemy. He's going to use people around us to attack us, but he's also going to speak lies to us. He's going to try and make us afraid. He's going to try and confuse us, make us worried. And in the same way that in the physical realm we have people who come around us and support us in our physical needs, we also need people who are praying and being obedient to God when he calls them to pray about specific things. Because we're not going to be able to communicate with all of you all the time about what our needs are. But God is faithful, and he can speak to our hearts, and when we're obedient to his will and his calling, amazing things can happen. So that's kind of what's been on my heart, and what God's been teaching me and sustaining me with as we go through this battle. And it's been rough, it's been hard, but it's been so worth it to see God changing me, changing my husband, working in us, working through us in the community, and to so many people around the world. So I'm really glad to be back in Montana, and I just thank you for being willing to listen to our story and being so supportive. Thank you.